This is What Worked in Workforce in 2025. And I want to introduce the team. Most of you know me, I think, Jeremy Cato. I'm the lead business solutions director here at the college. I've also got the rest of my team here with me. Chris White is one of my peers on the business solutions director side, and Michael Ross as well. We have my executive director, Rebecca Taylor, our fearless leader. That's a brave person that lets me go out and be the face of her team in the public. That's very courageous of her, and I appreciate the opportunity. We also have Kiana Hinton, who is a lot of you that work with us on the apprenticeship grants. She's the magician that makes all of that happen. There's a lot that goes into securing that funding to be able to train folks, and without Kiana, we'd never make that happen. And we also have Kate Wong, who's our business solutions coordinator and a magician in her own right. She keeps us organized, which any of you that known me for any amount of time know that's no easy task either. So I really appreciate that team. I encourage all of you. We'll share contact info at the end. If you have any questions after this that you didn't think to ask while the webinar was happening, that's your time to jump in and ask those. You reach out to any of us, we'll get you to the right person. You don't have to remember who does what. But again, thank you all for being here. I'm going to hand it over to Chris White for a little information before we jump into our panel.
Thank you, Jeremy. So at Midlands Technical College, our business solutions team is here to help Midlands employers strengthen their workforce and improve their bottom line. We stay closely connected to our business community, listen carefully to emerging needs, and partner with you to identify practical, results-oriented solutions. So here's how we accomplish that. First, we can provide customized training, whether you're onboarding new employees or upskilling your current team. The solutions that we can deliver are built around your processes, your equipment, and ultimately the outcomes that you need. Second, we can help organizations leverage grants, apprenticeships, and other funding opportunities that reduce training costs and support long-term workforce development strategies. And finally, we can act as a connector. If your needs extend beyond training, we can link you to additional resources across the college, the region, and even the state, whether that's workforce pipelines or industry partnerships or other specialized services. Our goal is to be a trusted partner who helps you build the skilled workforce needed for growth, productivity, and ultimately long-term success. And we've got a few just fun fast facts here we'll cover before we dive into it. And Midlands Technical College continues to be a statewide leader in apprenticeship and workforce development. And we're highlighting these numbers to really show the scale of our impact. So first, Midlands Technical College leads the entire state in apprenticeships. In 2025, 28% of all registered apprentices in South Carolina were represented by Midlands Technical College. So basically, nearly 1 out of every 3 apprentices in South Carolina is connected to an MTC program. And across our history, we've supported more than 3,000 apprentices, helping individuals build careers and helping employers fill critical workforce gaps. And independent of the apprenticeships, our employer partnerships remain strong. 128 companies have sponsored training for over 8,000 of their employees through MTC. These numbers reflect something important. Apprenticeship isn't just a program for us, it's a strategic workforce solution that consistently delivers results for both employers as well as individual job seekers.
Thank you, Chris. And yeah, that's a big deal. You're probably going to hear a lot about apprenticeship in some of the presentations you hear today. But as Chris said, that's something we stay fairly religious about, is that apprenticeship is not an MTC program. Apprenticeship is a program that belongs to you, the employers. And we're just fortunate enough that a lot of the employers in our area choose MTC and believe MTC is the right fit to provide the job-related education component of their apprenticeship program. But that's important to us. These are employers that are choosing to build their own talent, and we're really proud to be a part of that. Thanks, Chris. So with no further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into our panel. We did not have time to change this slide, but we do, Brenda Aranda was unfortunately not able to make it from WP Rawl today, but we do have a very capable substitute, Laura Rubio from WP Rawl, who's going to be joining us. And Laura, if you want to make sure your microphone's unmuted, if it doesn't work, we'll get that squared away. And we also have Sean Riley from the Department of Environmental Services. Both of these organizations have done some really cool stuff this year, some really innovative stuff this year. to really work on workforce development from some different perspectives and doing some innovative stuff that we don't always see. So we thought it would be valuable to bring them in here today and kind of talk about, what we're going to be doing. And, we're going to kick off with Laura and Sean. If you don't mind, just introduce yourselves. And Laura, we'll start with you. If you can just share a little bit about your role, about the organization you represent, and what kind of work your team focuses on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Rubio. I've been with the organization about a year now. I grew in first starting off as their SOP specialist with training and development, as our team took a new role earlier this year in July. We started off with our safety team. So my new role is SOP and safety system specialist, which I'm thankful for. Our team is currently focused on our workforce and our safety at work. We equip the right tools and skills to make them grow professionally as well. Here at WP Raw, we're the largest greens producer distributor in the Southeast. Our organization is family owned and operated. We vertically interact with all meanings. We harvest, farm, process, and distribute our product as well.
That's a huge organization. You guys do some amazing stuff out there.
Yes, we try.
Absolutely.
We try helping.
We appreciate it. Sean, what about you? You mind jumping in?
Yeah, sure. Can everybody hear me okay?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm Sean Riley. I'm the agency training director here at the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services. So as you guys may or may not know, we are a newly established agency. So we were just established as a cabinet agency July 1st of last year. And that was after the restructure of DHEC. We were one of the two agencies that came out of that, DPH and then SCDES. And then with that, we have specific roles and, responsibilities for overseeing the protection and preservation of South Carolina's environment and natural resources. So my team is really focused on all walks of agency training, like the upskilling, job-specific training, supervisory training, and leadership, basically committed to preserving South Carolina's air, land, water, and coast.
That's awesome. Yeah, and as you can tell, we've got two very different organizations presented here. That's one of the things we hear often is that, somebody says, well, workforce development doesn't work in the public sector. Well, I would tell you that Sean is proof what the work that him and his team have done at DES is proof that it does indeed. They're doing some really cool stuff, and private sector, public sector, you've all got workforce needs, and we've all got to have a plan for how to accomplish that. Speaking of that, Sean, we'll start with you on this next question. Looking back at 2025, what were some of the biggest challenges your workforce faced, and how do those compare to what you're anticipating for 2026?
Yeah, so looking back at 2025, as a newly established agency, right, we had to kind of navigate that large organizational restructure. So, which while it was obviously complex, I'm sure you guys can imagine, it gave us really the opportunity to kind of reevaluate and centralize, processes, streamline workflows, and clarify our workforce priorities. So, our workforce, also faced kind of significant challenges, including like adapting to rapid technological changes, evolving service expectations, competing priorities, and limited resources, right? So, these kind of experiences really highlighted the importance of being flexible, having that clear communication across the board, and for us to give that kind of targeted training. So, looking forward though, to 2026, we do anticipate similar challenges, but with kind of like an added focus on sustaining engagement this time, supporting that career growth and adapting really to a hybrid and evolving work environment. So, we're pretty proactively emphasizing individualized, targeted training here, leadership development, data-driven strategies, all while we're building a lasting culture as this new agency that kind of values that resilience, that collaboration, all that continuous improvement to ensure that our organization, is going to remain strong and future ready.
And I think that's something too that's just so outstanding to me and amazing to me. And it might mean that y'all are insane, Sean, but going through as much change as y'all went through and implementing a training project as big as what y'all have implemented in the last year at the same time, I think some people would question y'all's sanity on that. But y'all done an amazing job of it. But that is so much
Yeah, I'm
all at once.
definitely not sane,
Yeah.
Jeremy. I'm definitely.
Well, don't worry. I've been told I'm not either. That's okay. Maybe that's a workforce development feature of us. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you guys have done such an amazing job in the face of that. And we hear people all the time say things like, we're just too busy. We don't have time for training. You guys put together a plan while simultaneously restructuring and splitting in half. I think what was at the time the largest agency in the entire state, wasn't it, when it was DHEC? So splitting that into
So.
two pieces, figuring out the logistics of that, and doing this at the same time, that's incredible. I love it. Laura, how about you? What kind of challenges did Raw face in 2025, and what do y'all see coming in 2026?
In 2025, staffing has been constantly a challenge at WP Raw. Due to these various reasons, we maintain our work environment. Yes, our environment here is cold, it's wet, it's loud,
Hmm.
which sometimes coming into orientations, people are excited. Once they hit the floor, you see their faces and they're like, what did I get myself into? Yes. Yes. I can talk by experience. 'Cause when I first stepped foot into this floor, I was just like, whoa, this is a totally different light that I'm seeing, a new perspective. This is what people come into work every day. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see. And additionally, we have lost some talent. We've seen a lot of upscaling recently, whether it's, that's personal or through us, but we're trying to maintain and keep our staff competitive to another organizations to continue and retain our top talent tier. So we're excited. We're trying to develop our peers as much as we can to make them know that they can be the best versions of themselves too, because we want that for them. So we're
And
excited
I
to
think
see.
that's so important. Yeah. I mean, you
Yes.
guys do a lot to upskill people, and I imagine that's when you're competing for talent and trying to keep people from leaving for other organizations. I think that I think that a lot of times people think of that as just money, right? Like somebody's going to leave for $1 more somewhere else and things like that. And if all you do is compete on money, you can have a very, very difficult time in terms of trying to keep up with that cycle never stops. Once you start that's a vicious cycle. So I think you guys have done a lot in terms of showing people that there's money that comes, but also it's the growth that staying at Raw keeps you in an organization that's invested in growing you and building your skill set. Are y'all seeing a payoff from that?
Yes. Um, we have. We just did finished, I'm pretty sure in October, our leadership that we had with you guys with Midlands Tech. It was a great
Hmm.
opportunity for to develop our team that has been here with us for a couple of years, 5 years plus, and develop them to the better version of themselves. Like I was saying, I think it's great. It shows them and pushes them to the talent that they know they have. Um, and sometimes I don't like to say that they're scared or feared to show that talent, but it's better to push them out of their shells and see what they can provide for us because we're here to
That's
support
awesome.
them.
That's fantastic. And that leads me right into my next question. We'll stay with you, Laura. So both these organizations, the panelists that we're talking to today, they've both had a good focus on that leadership development and leadership growth. Laura, starting with you, why is that leadership side, when you're picking what trainings to invest in, why is leadership so important? And what results or lessons are you learning so far from having that focus on leadership development?
So, fun fact, WP Raw is 100 years old this year.
Oh,
Leadership and
wow. I didn't know
development.
that.
Yep. So we've been out for quite some time, um, but leadership and development has a core to our beliefs, um, that we grow our people, our product, and we realize that our leaders have the great impact, um, for our frontline workforce. If we can grow and develop in this pool of leaders, we can possibly impact our front line.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things we talk about often is that, when you're running a multi-tiered organization, a lot of times that first level of promotion, whoever's the best on the production side gets promoted to be the supervisor. And just because you can produce doesn't always mean you can supervise those that produce. So investing in the training to make that happen, that's admirable.
Correct. We had an on-site supervisory class with about 19 to 20 individuals who the majority were teams that led here at WP Raw, clean painters, and with their teams. These individuals are the future of WP Raw to take us to another 100 years, hopefully. So we're excited
Absolutely.
for that.
That's awesome. Thank you. Sean, how about you? I mean, why leadership with everything that y'all have going on? Why was it so important to focus on a leadership development program?
Yeah, definitely. No, Laura, you're making me feel like the baby here. We're like 1 year old at SCDS.
No, not at all.
No, but seriously though, like no leadership growth really for us, it's been a really major focus for our organization because we kind of see that the strong leadership as really that foundation of the resilient high performing workforce that we have here. So we kind of see like effective leaders as setting the tone for the culture here. They're going to drive that engagement. They're going to ensure that the teams can adapt and succeed, even as the priorities and challenges and stuff shift, right? So another thing too is, it's also kind of, I think, important for us to understand that like not all leaders are supervisors as well. So we have two separate programs, I'm sure like Laura had mentioned, for both. And, we kind of learned that, leadership isn't really confined to the titles, right? It's a skill set, and that it can and should be developed at every level. And so that's kind of what we tried to do with our leadership program, so by investing in this leadership training early, we're kind of empowering our employees to kind of take that initiative and make those informed decisions and model accountability. So our results really, off of this program and stuff, they've been pretty tangible, I would say. I mean, we've seen improved communication really across all of our departments that are currently participating in it. There's a stronger retention of those high potential employees and really more collaborative and solution oriented culture that we're establishing. So, one really key lesson has kind of been that leadership growth doesn't happen in that isolation, right? It kind of thrives when we're pairing it in our program with that mentorship component. When you have that feedback and those opportunities to really take the skills that they're learning from our program and apply them in real time. So, ultimately, our emphasis on the leadership has really helped not to just build stronger teams, but really a stronger pipeline of future leaders that are ready to kind of guide our organization forward. So
No, that's great. And I think you touched on some of I wanted to just throw a little follow-up into that question and cheat
yeah,
a little bit. I know I gave you guys a list, but I'll often throw something extra in. Sorry. But you hit something important. I think, we get people all the time that tell us they want to have a leadership development program, but what does leadership training look like? And you hit a few of the topics there, like some of the things that were important to you guys. but those may not be the same in every organization. And I think that's what's so important about the flexibility of this stuff. Like you mentioned, communication was the first thing you talked about, and that's such an important leadership skill. But there's so much that goes into it, right? Like, how do you decide what leadership training looks like for your organization? Like, what is it? Is it looking at the situations that y'all deal with where things didn't go perfect, or is it just kind of putting together an ideal of what does a good leader look like at DES? How do you decide that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, obviously, we kind of have to look at the full spectrum of everything really and kind of see like really what are the needs, I would say, of the employees because some of them they just have different needs. So with us kind of doing more of a tiered approach with ours, we can kind of focus on the employees really. And that's kind of the point of our program is really we're focusing on where the employees like currently are in that leadership development, and it really gives them something to work toward.
That's awesome. Yep. Thank you. Laura, what about you? Any thoughts on that? Like, how do you pick specific things you want to train leadership on?
I like what Sean said.
Yeah.
It's mostly what we look forward to. Communication is a great skill that I think everyone should have, but there's a way to develop it. Um, Seeing what is the process going through, how are we going to make someone a great leader from now to 5 years? Hopefully they
Mhm.
stay with us instead of 5 years. But let's say, for example, me, how am I going to build myself to become a leader that this organization needs, as well as trying to comply with everyone, understanding everyone's point of view, understanding what everyone is going through. How am I going to put myself in their shoes and understand this is what this team needs, but as well, this is what this team needs. It's always kind of difficult to understand a little bit of everything. I just feel like I'm just throwing that word, but it's true. Um,
Yeah.
we want to know what is going on in their minds. How can we help them to flow? How can we understand their teams to make them succeed?
I think that's huge. I mean, like you said understand a bunch of times, but it's because it's
Yes.
so important. And every team is different. Like you said at the very end, you have to understand what each team needs to be able to build this successfully and make the impact you want to make. I think that's awesome. We're going to pause real quickly and throw a poll question up on the screen. Kate, if you don't mind, what I want to hear from and my presenters, feel free to answer this too, but from the audience, what's made the biggest difference in developing your workforce? And you can see you've got some options to choose from there. We'll leave this up there for a minute and let everybody answer, and then we'll share some results and see what it looks like. But and obviously that last option, that's something else, let us know in the chat. Feel free to throw in the chat if there's something not on that list that's made a difference for you. But would love to see responses from everybody, and they're starting to roll in. And while those responses are rolling in too, I'll also add, if anyone has questions, whether for us or our panelists, feel free to throw those in the chat. We'll also have some time at the end if you want to be brave and ask that question in live in real time. We'll save some time at the end for that. But if you've got one and you're like me, you don't want to forget it, throw it in the chat for now. So, all right. So these results are coming in. Are those visible on the screen already? Kate?
Yeah, it's adjusting. We have a total of 8 responses at
Good.
the moment.
Good. So I'm seeing leadership and career development. That's one of the ones that we've talked about a little bit already, and that's up there at the top. Upskilling, reskilling initiatives, practical on-the-job training. I noticed something interesting. No one selecting online learning tools and platforms. That's interesting to me. That was such a huge push during COVID and immediately after COVID, and I wonder if there could be some online training fatigue happening at this point. That wouldn't surprise me. I have heard some people talk about that, but that's interesting to me that that one's at 0%. So, all right. Well, we'll go ahead and jump into our next question. And Laura, we'll start with you again, if that's okay. Is the workforce shortage, is that still a major issue? And if so, how's your organization approaching it?
Yes, workforce storage is a major issue here at WP Roll, particularly for some skills such as diesel techs. Um, with our strategy, we monitored and sensitivity, wanting to understand how we can help them. and learning more opportunities to continue and growing. That's for me, ESOL skill would be more of a difficult trying to understand and learning that process, which would be fun, collaborating with one of them to see and understand a little bit of what they do. But yes,
Gotcha.
we do have some issues sometimes.
Yeah, and I imagine diesel tech, that's something so critical to you guys' business with all the equipment that's so critical to y'all's operation that if you can't keep that equipment running, I imagine that has huge expenses for the
Mhm.
operation when there's downtime in that side. Wow. Sean, how about you? Is workforce shortage still an issue for DES?
So, yeah, so I wouldn't really necessarily say that we're dealing with the workforce shortage right now. We're actually getting a good number of applicants, across most areas. But what we're really seeing is kind of a lot of movement and the ongoing challenge of really matching the right people to the right roles. So that alignment is key for our long-term retention, and I'll kind of give you guys an example, but we have our environmental health managers. Those can range from site inspectors to staff who enforce environmental regulations, and our engineers, which are mostly environmental engineers. They're really responsible, for issuing permits under the right time frame. So, when you think about the complexity of those kind of roles, right, the training piece kind of becomes critical. So it's not just about the technical skills, like I mentioned kind of earlier, but it's really those soft skills, that IT proficiency, the program specific knowledge and things, so they can be kind of effective and confident early on. And overall, we're in a better place than in the last years when it comes to the applicant flow. But of course, some roles like the engineers are still tough to fill, because of the location and salary competitiveness. I'm sure you guys can see, and then the accreditation factors, but we're making progress. We made progress on that, but really looking ahead, again, like the 2026, we're really trying to be more intentional, reconnecting, with the top candidates, who may have applied before, and those could be like a great fit for other openings and things that we have, and then focusing on early development once they come on board. So, we also want to identify those high performing new hires early. So that's kind of one thing that we did with our leadership program, is we don't want them to necessarily have to wait to get into the program.
Yeah.
Some programs you got to wait a certain period of time. We're like, look, if you're high performing, you come on board and stuff if you're nominated. So, we want to make sure that they're getting those opportunities for those skill growth and leadership development, if that's where their interests lie.
And you hit something there that, we mentioned earlier, but again, I think it's so critical is the idea that, you've got to show that growth potential. You can't outpay everybody, especially from a state agency. I'm no offense, I'm not telling you
Yeah.
anything that's not a secret.
No.
But I mean, that's one of those challenges that state agencies have had forever. So how do you overcome that, especially when you're having to hire specialized talent that's not abundant in the workforce, and offering that early access to training? That's a perk. We've heard that in a lot of the studies of the younger generation in the workforce, is that seeing an opportunity to develop and grow is important to them. A lot of these folks are we've seen a lot of turnover from the younger workforce. They're more willing to leave a job, it appears, but it's maybe not for the same reasons that previous generations left jobs. It really is, they want to be working somewhere that's going to invest in them and grow them. So when we see, sometimes gatekeeper policies like you've got to be here for a year before you can go to training, that's sometimes a hindrance in a recruiting pitch. So hearing you say that, we want to identify those new hires that are high performing and get them engaged in training and growing them early, that's that's a perspective you didn't often hear 10 years ago, 20 years ago. That's definitely a change from the employer's perspective. Is that something y'all work into recruiting, or is that more something they find out at the onboarding stage, Sean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because I've heard from other, just to kind of piggyback off that, I've heard from other, employees at other state agencies, and, they tell me, hey, I've been wanting to get into this leadership program at my agency, and I've had to be on like a wait list and stuff. And at that point, like after several years, it's kind of like they just become discouraged in a way, and they're just like, I guess I'm never really gonna have the chance to get in here, or they just get busy. Obviously, like we mentioned, these technical jobs, they might be out in the fields doing things. They've got certain time frames, to be cognizant of all that. But, they just get disillusioned, and then they're just like, I just never mind, or they end up leaving. So that's kind of, definitely something we wanted to focus on.
That reminds me of one of the funniest stories I've ever heard in workforce development. I knew, I won't say which agency, but I knew a gentleman that started his post-military career. He got out of the military and went to work for a state agency, and that agency had a leadership development program. And the book that they based it was an internal program they ran themselves, but the book that they taught out of was a book that this gentleman had written when he was in the military. And when he went to work for this agency, he applied for the leadership program and got turned down because he hadn't been there long enough. And he literally wrote the book they were training from. So that one has always cracked me up. That was a long, long time ago. But that's one of those things like we talked about. Sometimes we have policies that get in the way of what we really want to be doing to make an impact. Laura, what about you guys? I mean, the training side, is that something y'all work into? How do you attract and keep employees? The fact that y'all are making that investment?
Yes. When we do hire, we give them our new hire orientation, which is every Monday. We have employees coming in every Monday. But as well as Sean and you were saying, there's just talent that they're waiting. They're excited to start. They want to push forward, but due to some policies or due to some stuff in the organization, they lose hope. They're like, well, if Raw is not going to give it to me, I have another company that will. So, and that's when I feel like we're losing such good talent that should not be getting lost.
Yeah.
They should be helping us making this organization work and develop. But yes, there's times where we want to give them those resources, but due to policies or due to pauses that we have to do,
Yeah.
it's not possible.
And yeah, that hurts from a talent development side. I mean, especially, gosh, I imagine the recruiters, it really kills them. So, yeah, I'm completely with you. That's something that all of our organizations have to think about is the reasons that policies exist. Do those reasons still outweigh the downside of those policies? That's something you always got to keep an eye on.
Yes.
So keep it moving. Laura, we'll start with you again. Training, as we're talking about, it plays such a key role in workforce development. How does Roll approach training and when it comes to prioritizing those, the different areas, whether it's technical, interpersonal, leadership, how do you decide where to place the most emphasis?
We've had created various learning paths for everyone here and career positions for our teams that they allow them to have a mixture of skills for each level that they're in. This has done a great purpose to develop well-rounded professionals, future leaders within our team. And we'll start with the technicals and start mixing in interpersonal and leadership within that so we can better hope to grow them.
Gotcha. And do y'all see that in terms of how that mix gets determined? I mean, how do y'all prioritize which one needs to happen right now, or is it more based on the pool of folks that need to be trained?
I think it's a mixture of both.
Mhm.
Going and seeing our leadership team that had happened in October, I did see familiar faces that, for my part, I'm like, great, these are team leaders that we should be having in here. And then other folks that I'm like, interesting. just because of the way that I've treated them and communicated with them. But they've learned a lot. They've learned to become better leaders than what they used to be. So I'm glad.
That's awesome. Sean, what about you? How do you, I mean, we talked about several different levels of staff that y'all have as priorities to recruit, keep, develop, between the engineers, the frontline folks, all that stuff. Like, how do you prioritize technical versus interpersonal versus leadership?
Yeah, I mean, obviously training plays a super vital role in our workforce development strategy. And like Laura, we begin really like by focusing on that mandatory and foundational training really with the orientation stuff that we do. So we do ours on the higher dates and things. It's like I'm making a plug for SCDES behind me.
It's okay.
But yeah, we obviously start with that foundational training to ensure the compliance and consistency, and then we kind of build the employees from there. And we also try to avoid duplicating efforts with our program. So I know that's one thing I hadn't mentioned previously, but we're really trying to align closely with existing state programs and resources. It kind of allows us to leverage those proven frameworks while really focusing on the energy on areas that really truly add that value and stuff for those employees. And then from there, we're really our approach then can become individualized and targeted. So rather than us just kind of offering really like a one size fits all program, we can really tailor it to each employee's career stage and goals. So this kind of personalized approach that we sort of do, it really gives employees a clear path and growth. Like I mentioned earlier, it gives them something to really work toward. And it's really a challenge because we've got a lot of technical employees, here at our agency, and they like to be challenged, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that challenge, it really kind of motivates that continuous improvement. So by really balancing all of those technical and interpersonal and leadership development skills in that kind of way, like we can really ensure that the training that we have, it'll support both the organizational needs and the individual advancement. So
Oh, that's big. Yeah. And I mean, one thing that stands out to me about yours too, Sean, is you guys are such a big organization and you're statewide. We hear from some of our employer partners from time to time that, being able to put together training programs like this sounds amazing, but I've got people, that are working in different offices or they work different shifts, and it's just too hard to get everybody in one place to make this happen. How do y'all overcome that? I mean, y'all are spread across the entire state and every county.
yeah, so one other thing that we really wanted to do with this program, and I kind of mentioned it, I think previously, but we really try to stay time cognizant, right? So some programs are like these super extensive, long programs, and we've had a lot of employees here say, I don't really necessarily have that time commitment available and things. So what we really tried to do was kind of tailor it to that aspect and say, like, if the employees didn't have quite as much time, what can we do? So we sort of with this sort of tiered approach, it's like we have little spurts that they can kind of go, and we're following like a train theme. So it's like they can jump on at a certain point. If they need to take a pause, they can do that. They can come back on if they need to offboard. So but it also allows us really to for those employees, just like you would on a train itself, right? You'd be riding on a train ride. You're not always going to sit next to the exact same person. So somebody else might come on at a different period, and then you get that, collaboration with somebody across the organization in that way. So I think it's really helpful for us to allow these like jumping on points instead of just one point for people. And like I said earlier, they're waiting for you to oh, when are you going to open the nominations? Oh, I didn't get it. It's been 2-3 years. And, and then they're kind of like, forget it.
Yeah. And you touched on something there that we hear so often too, is that idea of collaborating with different folks, right? You've got people from different parts of the organization that may not be involved in each other's professional lives at all, other than this moment, but they're getting to hear different perspectives and gaining a deeper understanding of what the rest of the organization does. And they may even find out that it does relate to what they do more than they thought. And Laura, I'm sure that's probably similar in your industry. I mean, you guys have so many different components to that organization. Do y'all see that interaction between different departments happening because of training?
Correct. Yes. Sean was saying, we do try to figure out how to collab with everyone and have everyone here. For about a couple months before starting our leadership program, we did decide how we were going to plan this out. How would we have teams coming in? WP Raw is a 24-hour shift. The only people who don't work 24 hours is our maintenance. My apologies, our admin. They're here from 8 to 5, but everyone else, we have sanitation coming in from 4 to 11. Our production team starting from 12 to 8. Our production team day starts from 8, depending on those hours, 5 to 6. And our maintenance is 24/7. So we have everyone here, and we wanted to decide how we were going to come collaborate. So we decided to do our leadership one day from, pretty sure it was from 9 to 4, and then our morning team, so they wouldn't be coming in. And for things to be fair, we wanted for them to come in from 5 to probably, I think, 9 was the time, so they can have experience. Okay, they worked this time, this shift, you work this shift, but still we want to mix and match. And correct, we try to have everyone working together. So that's what a team is, working together, helping each other out. If it's, hey, I need help building a desk, can you come and help me? Yeah, it should be easy. That's why we want to build this communication status that we have, so everyone can feel comfortable within our team.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Laura, we're going to stick with you and start our next question with you. If you could offer one piece of advice to other organizations that are trying to stay relevant and competitive in this workforce environment that we're currently in, what would that one piece of advice be?
Invest in your people. Show when you're committed. Make your people stay committed within your organization. Have loyal contributors within your team. You've done this for about 100 years now with the benefits, and have key players within, do 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, and then continue up to contribute with us. So invest in your people, have them learn as much as you learn, teach what you've known and what you've got learned. It's so important to teach. You never know what's going to happen to you one day, and you want to know. I want somebody to remember, hey, Laura helped me out with this one, or hey, Laura taught me this. This is how I know. Might not be correct, but a lot of people can teach you so many different ways.
That's awesome. Sean, what about you? What one piece of advice would you give to someone wanting to stay competitive in this workforce environment?
Yeah, so obviously for state government, I'm kind of a big believer that, you don't really get a second chance to make a good first impression a lot of times. So, my advice really for everyone would really be to stay adaptable, build a culture that really embraces the change rather than resists it. Put the focus on the employees, really understand their needs, respect their time, like we mentioned, and create approaches that really fit where they are in their careers, because, not every organization, like you mentioned, Jeremy, not every organization has to operate in the same way. You leverage those partnerships and align with the proven programs that'll prevent duplication, and then stay aware, just like we were kind of talking about a little bit ago with some of the technology stuff. Stay aware of those trends, you know, because that'll better engage your workforce, you know, and don't become complacent too, I would say. Please don't become complacent, because even I would say if something really works, there's always room to improve that, you know. So you know, employees see that growth really, I think, as part of that culture that you're establishing. The innovation is going to naturally follow, and it's going to keep the organization really relevant and competitive, and like I said, future ready. So
I think that's so important. And you touched on something there about don't be complacent. Just because something's working doesn't mean you need to leave it completely alone. I tell people all the time, we actively seek out feedback from all of our business partners. And I love hearing, oh, Midlands Tech does a great job. Oh, the training was fantastic. We love that instructor. You know, everything was great. We love hearing that. But I honestly enjoy it a lot more when it's, hey, you know, we had this one thing that could have been better. Because let's be honest, none of us are doing anything perfect. And I want our business partners to feel completely comfortable giving us that feedback on where we can improve and where we can change something to make it a little more relevant, to update it, to make it more impactful for their employees and for their business. I mean, that's where we've got to be if we want to stay relevant as a college and as your training provider. We need that real world feedback on what we can do a little bit different to make a bigger impact in the business community. So I love that. I really appreciate it. Anything else, Laura, Sean, anything y'all would like to share with this audience, knowing there's folks out there that are probably, you know, trying to figure out how in the world can we build the right training program or find the right training to improve our workforce and keep us going. Anything else that we haven't talked about y'all think's important to share?
Learning is important.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I could say. Nobody's going to take learning away from you. Always be excited to learn, always be motivated to learn. Why? Learn from different people. There are people who are going to teach you one way, but multiple ways, excuse me. But one way has to stick. Always be excited to learn. If you don't know anything, always be excited to ask questions, even though you might ask a question to yourself and be like, ooh, that sounds silly. I don't know if I should be asking that question. Don't be afraid. No one, like you said, no one in this world is perfect, and everyone should know that. And it's always exciting to know new things. So be open-minded, learn, don't be afraid to ask questions, and be yourself all the time.
That's great. Thank you, Laura. Sean, how about you? Any last thoughts?
yeah, I'd just like to say, really, you know, just for everyone, like at the end of the day, honestly, the innovation is important, but so is the execution, right? So great ideas, you know, are the start, but the results, you know, are what's going to matter. So I think just for everyone, just keep, you know, keep moving forward. And you guys are gonna deliver and stuff. So, you know, Midlands, you guys have been really instrumental in helping us get these programs off the ground and on the right track, pun intended there.
I
But
appreciate
yeah,
that.
you know, everyone just keep, you know, like Laura said, just keep challenging yourselves and keep moving forward, and you guys are gonna have great results as well.
I appreciate that, Sean. Thank you. Big thank you to our two panelists, Laura and Sean. If you have time to stick around for questions, we'd love to have you. But if you've got to jump, we totally understand. Before we jump into questions, I got a couple more things I want to cover real quick. And first, I want to throw up one more poll question. Kate, if you don't mind tossing that up on the screen. And that poll question is just for everybody on this in the audience. If any of these things would benefit you or provide value to your organization, feel free to select which one. And those are, you know, a discovery call or a consultation with our team, a networking with other organizations in your industry sector, hearing more real world success stories from other organizations, or updates on new tools, grants, or programs. Your feedback on this is going to help us figure out, you know, the next webinar topics and what other things we need to be doing just to help you guys stay abreast of what's going on in the world of workforce. So we'll leave that up there for a second and watch as those results come in. Seeing a lot of updates on new tools, grants, and programs. So we will make sure we're doing what we can to get as much word out as we're developing new programs and as new grants become available and the different things we're doing. See a lot about networking with other organizations in your sector. That doesn't surprise me. I think that there's a lot of value that comes from sharing knowledge, finding out what others are doing. That's why every year I think this is one of the most important webinars we do, being able to hear from folks that are doing things that are working and figuring out how can we adapt those to work for other organizations. And for whoever it was that selected a discovery call or consultation with us, we're about to share our contact info. Reach out. We'd love to sit down and see what we can do to help. So interesting results there. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and jump to one little bit of housekeeping. Mike, if you want to jump in and talk a little bit about this. Mike, you there? Mike might be having a little bit of technical difficulty. What we're looking at there, this is something that we've done for a long time. We actually years ago had a leadership development program that was developed specifically for our government sector clients, state, local, county government. And that is coming up in January, and we're excited to have that coming up again. As you can see, it does have a virtual kickoff, but then there are in-person training sessions that happen a couple of times a month through the first half of the year in 2026. So that's something that if you're in that government sector, one of the things that people tell us all the time that is really valuable about that is that your people end up in a classroom with people from a number of different agencies. And just like you heard from Sean and Laura, having those different perspectives and how sometimes we find out we're dealing with the same problems and hearing how other people are solving them, there's a lot of value to that. So we get a lot of feedback on that program. If you're interested, reach out to us. We'd be glad to help you get some folks set up in that. And as promised, our contact information, wanted to go ahead and get that out there. As I said, feel free to reach out to any of us. We'd be glad to help you. And whether that help is figuring out how to set up a training program through us, or just wanting to find out some ideas and brainstorm about what you could be doing as an organization internally, we're glad to help. So feel free to reach out anytime. With that said, that does bring us to the end of our presentation today. We do have this QR code on the screen. We would love to hear feedback from everyone that attended. So if you have the chance to scan that and complete a short survey, we'd love to hear it. We do still have a couple of minutes before 11 o'clock, so I'd love to open it up for questions at this point. If anybody has them, feel free to submit them in the chat. Or if you want to be brave, I believe you can unmute your mic and ask a question as well. And if that doesn't work, throw it in the chat. That
Hey, Jeremy.
QR code, is the QR code not showing up on the screen, Kate?
Will you please share your screen?
Oh, did
I
it
think-
unshare?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, folks. There it is. Did it pop up that time?
There we go.
All right. I have managed to hit about every technical difficulty possible today, but we still survived. All right. So there's that QR code for the survey. And if anybody has questions, feel free to jump right in, throw them in the chat, or speak up. Not seeing any questions coming in right off the rip. We'll give it just a minute. All right, it looks like we must have covered it all pretty well. Laura, Sean, thank you all again so much for your time. I really, really appreciate you. Everyone, there'll be information coming out on our next webinar early next year. That's going to be the workforce forecast, where we have the folks from the Department of Employment and Workforce come and share with us all the amazing data that they collect to help give us an idea of what are we going to be looking at next year. Is the workforce shortage still going to be here, or is there going to be a better supply of workforce for us all to try to recruit and hire from? And some of the trends that they're seeing in terms of turnover and people moving into the state, moving out of the state. There's always some really cool information there. So we'll get that invitation out to everybody, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and let us know if we can help. Take care.
Thank you.